Hey guys, this is Jerrod Henderson here in Family First Life's corporate office here in Orlando, Florida, sitting here with Wayne Carr, Hall of Fame producer.
I can get used to that.
That's nice, right?
It is.
Yeah, we still got to get the other sounds on there. So basically, we're just sitting here in the office, and I was just sitting here talking to Wayne, and because Wayne, you did, how much did you sell last year?
I want to say 360 something.
360, so
mid threes.
Way more than I sold last year, and you did Hall of Fame the year before, right?
Yes, sir.
Just for those of you that don't know, that's over $400,000 in a year. That's your personal pin. Yes. That's not your team or anything like that. So he went out and sold $400,000 in 1 year, which is a big deal, you know. And a lot of people I know, when they come into Family First Life, you know, everybody's like, I want to hit Hall of Fame. I want to hit Hall of Fame. But obviously, you only see the top people doing it. Mm-hmm. You know, so I wanted to kind of just pick your brain, just because I still think it's awesome you hitting Hall of Fame. And it's honestly, it's an honor to have you in here, man. Just to have you come in, do some training, just a bit of pick your brain. Just because I know the agents that come in and they get the training from that, just the stuff that they can take away and go home with it, I know it's helping them. You know, whether it be your agents, our agents, it's just a really good feeling to be to have you in here and have you helping. So I really do appreciate it.
No, it's good to be here. And I appreciate you opening the doors and allowing me to use the office.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, let's go back a second. How long have you actually been selling insurance?
I think August of 2015 is when I got licensed, because I remember being at the July sales conference in Atlanta when they were doing it twice a year, and I hadn't gotten my license yet.
Were you still living in Tampa at that point?
Yeah. Yep.
Gotcha.
My entire insurance career, I've been in Florida.
Gotcha. So living in, you know, Central Florida, and then they were doing the boot camp in Atlanta. So you drove all the way up to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just to get started.
Yeah. I mean, I was Mark basically impressed upon me how important. He really just told me what was going to happen there. And knowing what I know about business, I knew that I needed to be around it and get it firsthand at that point, or it was going to be kind of spoon fed to me over time. So I figured I just go get it and then kind of piece it together and figure it out, or put the pieces in place as I came across those hurdles. I knew that I was going to go there and not understand most of the things that they were talking about, but I also knew I needed it, or was going to be able to use it at some point.
Gotcha. So, yeah, Mark's pretty good at that.
Yeah.
It's funny just because I remember meeting Mark for the first time, and he's like, you need to do this. And I was like, got it. You know, and it changed my business. You know, every time I talk to him, it seems like I make more money. And that's a crazy thing with me. Like I talk to agents, you know, and I'll tell them, because I used to live in the Panhandle, you know, in North Florida, and like, well, how'd you get down here? You know, I was like, well, I was coming down here to run business, and I did the same thing. It's funny you said that. I actually drove to Atlanta. I was still in the car business, and I went to a boot camp. And the guy that hired me, he's like, hey, you should come check it out. And I was like, oh, Atlanta, yeah, I'm still working. He's like, dude, you need to go. You know, these people are making money. And when I walked in the door, I knew right away. I was like, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
And people always go, they're like, you drove to Atlanta? I'm like, it was 5.5 hours. It's nothing, you know? And I was like, you're over here sitting talking about driving 5 hours to make life-changing money, you know? And it's just crazy how some people will sit there and they're like, oh, no. I'm like, well, that's the difference, you know? So, okay, and that was, you said what year was that?
15.
So almost basically right at 5 years. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. Whenever you got started, do you remember what you sold the first year?
Like it was the first year, my first full year.
Yeah.
I did 265.
Okay.
That's my first full year. But
gotcha.
My first month, and I tell people all the time, the Family First Life now is nothing compared. I mean, it's so much better than the Family First Life that I plugged into initially, where we were literally taking pages of notes because there was no rewinding and replaying. But my first month I did $4,000, then 7, 11, 13, and 17, my first 5 months. So the numbers,
I love how you remember that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I do remember it because of some of the conversations that happened along the way that I remember just as vividly. But I'm just in awe of the people that come in now and do 15, 20, 25 in their first month, because I can't even imagine starting out like that.
Yeah. It's insane. I remember talking to you probably, dude, it was like 2 years ago. We were on that trip, remember, in California. And
trip, yeah.
that I was like, and that's why I was like, oh, that's right, he's selling us insurance. And I started like trying to pick your brain. And I remember the first thing that like came, I was like, this guy is so smooth. He's like smooth with everything. He's just content. He's just, carries himself so well, and everything is just so smooth. And I was like, I gotta get like that, And I remember I would just, anytime I'd see a sales conference, I'd always try to just pick your brain, just because I'd always take something. And dude, every single little thing I would always take from you, I would use it in the in-home. And I'd always make money with it every single time,
That's humbling.
and a lot of people probably don't even know that, but I'm a copycat. I like stealing. It's like, that's the way I look at this business. It's like, you gotta be a good copycat. So, okay. So you said 265 your first year, that was more than my first year. What do you really feel like it took, just for new agents watching, and getting, into this thing and trying to really blow this thing up? What do you really feel like you did and some things you changed to go from 260 to over 400 in a year?
Yeah, I think it was definitely schedule, and then what you just described. I'm a copycat too. I mean, I'm Paul McLean, Matt Smith to a T. If you hear my in-home, a lot of it is derived from those recordings and the things that they did, because at the time they were producing at a very high level, and they were doing a lot of the recordings. And of course, Mark's 8 steps was the foundation that my in-home was built on, and then just tweaking it from there. But I think it goes back to just implementing those things, because for a long time, that 4, 7, 11, 13, 17, that was because I wasn't plugged into the system, or I was just going through the motions. I'd be listening to the recording and doing something else at the same time, not really taking notes, or taking notes and just for the sake of taking notes and not really reviewing it or implementing it. And I remember listening to Paul talking about his process of taking notes and then his review process. And I implemented that. And it's hard to take notes, review it, and not implement it. Yeah. It's kind of like booking appointments and not going. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So when you do that, it starts clicking, and then you just want more, because you see the impact of it. And it's not a secret where you go to get more. So I know where to get it. I can either call Paul directly or pull up another Paul recording or listen to the same one, because now my ear is tuned a little differently. So I'm listening to him differently. So I'm picking up something else.
I love it. And I tell people that all the time. It's like, you go to sales conferences and it's like, yeah, we can talk about leads and phone script. And I've heard Paul and Matt and all these guys training a million times, but it's like the same thing with me. I pick up something different. Yeah. And it's mind blowing for me, because I'm like, how did I not get that last time?
Right.
But it's just crazy how people grow, and then you start learning. That kind of takes me back to the same thing with you, because I remember we had a sales conference in Tampa. This was probably 3 years ago. And I think we had a full 20, maybe 22 people there, in Tampa. And I remember you going up to the front of the room, and I was the last guy that got called, because I like barely made the Elite Producers Club, like barely. I think I sold $8 to get into it. And
policy on yourself.
Yeah, right. That was that children's policy. And I remember Mark calling out your numbers, and I was like, man, you were selling over 20 grand at that point. And I was like, man, he's always ahead of me. He's always in front. I need to start asking this guy and figure out what he's doing. And then I remember probably, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months after that, I saw a leaderboard come out from Family First Life, and you did over like 40 grand for the month. And I was like, what is this guy doing? And I'd always try to pick your brain at the sales conference. So, and I remember vividly being on that trip. I was like, because you bring up schedule. I was like, what did you change? And I remember you telling me, you're like, dude, I ran a couple more appointments per day.
Yeah.
And I would throw in a Sunday here and there. Mm-hmm. And I did that. In my first year, I went from 128, which is a joke compared to your 260. I mean, I just wasn't working, obviously. I thought I was working, but I wasn't, right. And that next year, just that advice you gave me, I did, I think, it was a little over 270. It was like 272 and some change. I owe a lot of it to you, because it was just simple little tweaks, that basically took my business to the next level. So I really appreciate it, man. It's
my pleasure. It is those little tweaks, and it's easy to implement. I was actually just talking to an agent about it before we came in to record, because it's the little things like dialing, and it also relieves some pressure. It's like dialing on Thursday for Friday.
Yeah.
If it spills over to Saturday, great, but keep it for Saturday afternoon. That way you can dial Saturday morning for Sunday and keep most of your Saturday free and make that your time where you can get some balance. And you still, because you have a couple innately spill over into Saturday and you focus on booking another 6 to 8 on Sunday, you still innately run 15 to 20 appointments in a weekend without even really trying.
I love it. I love it. So how, like right now, just where you're at in your business, how many appointments do you run per week?
I probably 25.
And were you running more about the same when you did Hall of Fame?
I was running more because I was nowhere near as effective as I am in the house now.
Gotcha. Just those reps, right? I mean,
it's just like I use a lot of gym analogies.
Yeah.
Obviously, the more reps you do, the more defined you get.
Yep.
You do the heavy lifting in the beginning, but if I do a lot of reps or run a lot of appointments, naturally I'm going to start to see things differently, and it just kind of makes you that much stronger and that much sharper, more well defined, and you can kind of start shaving and trimming the fat from your in-home. That's how you learn how to get out of the house faster or ask better questions, or just overall be more effective.
Got it. What did you sell last week?
Last week was 15 grand.
15 for the week, right?
Yeah.
And going back to the leaderboard, I remember because y'all were really always good at sending out leaderboards, and I would see 15 grand, and I thought that was for the month.
Yeah.
I was like, Wayne, he's doing pretty good, 15 grand. And then I was talking, they're like, no, that's for the week. I was like, that was for the week. This was a while back. You were still doing 15, 20 grand. And I was like, oh my God, that is for the week. And I remember Sean coming out 10K a week, 10K a week, 10K a week. I was like, dude, I'm trying to sell 10 grand a month. And so what are your thoughts on that? Because I know obviously 15 grand a week wasn't always your goal.
Yeah.
Right. What was your goal whenever you kind of think back to when you're getting started to, progressing that to now?
Oh man, it's funny. We just talked about those conversations. I remember vividly having conversations with Mark where he was like, man, if I could just get you to submit $5 grand a week, your life would be dramatically different.
Yeah.
And now my goal is $5 grand a day. If I come home a day without $5 grand in my bag, then I'm licking my wounds trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
So 15 grand a week, my drop dead now, that transition, it really is it's a belief level, an increased belief level in yourself, and understanding that you have all the tools and the resources, and people are willingly giving you the information. All you have to do is copy it and implement it. And once you realize that and decide that that's what you want to do, then you just go do it. And granted, the 15 a week that we're talking about there's obviously other people that are doing 30 grand a week, 20, 30 grand a week consistently. But
yeah.
To get to that level of 15, it's really just reps. It's not really a whole lot of skill involved in it. It's just reps and intentionality.
Because you don't close. Obviously you don't close everybody you sit with.
No.
And I think people have that intention of, oh, he's a Hall of Fame producer. He sells everybody he sits with.
No.
Because I've called you in the field and you're like, dude, I'm out here driving around. I'm like,
burning gas.
I'm like, dang, Wayne. And then I see you post, another, 30 minutes later, $275 a month. And it's like, it happens to everybody, but that's always helped keep me on track. Because I'm like, I know if he's got to adjust things, like whenever I get out of a home, I heard someone say this on a call, but whenever I get out of a home and I don't sell it, I used to literally go, would have Mark sold that one? Would Matt Smith would Wayne would have sold that one? Yeah. Okay. I got to change something, and I would always try to get that feedback, okay, what could I have done different? So, I know we're coming up on our time here, man. I did want to ask you one thing. If you could go back looking at your progression of where you've come in this business, right, for a new agent, what is something you would do differently, either on the selling side, hiring side, pertaining maybe selling? What is something you would have changed or you would have done different looking back at it now to help a new agent out getting started?
I would have definitely started hiring from day one. Going back to the gym analogy, you have a workout buddy. There's just a different level of accountability, and now your two are getting stronger together. So I would have definitely, that's a no-brainer. I would have started hiring from day one. In warm market too, I would have pulled on people until everybody unfriended me or blocked me at that point. But on the sales side, I think I just would have been more intentional sooner and listen more and not really try to outsmart the system, because success leaves footprints.
Yeah.
There's enough successful people here and enough different footprints for you to choose from that there's really no thought involved in it. All you just have to do is get on the wheel and run, literally. Just buy leads, get on the phone, repeat what Dom says, or repeat what I say, or just repeat what somebody says, and then do the same thing when you get in the house. And that your close ratio will be somewhere between that 25% that'll buy from anybody and probably a solid 40%, because you sound like somebody that knows what they're doing. You don't even have to know what you're doing, just because you sound like somebody that knows what they're doing. And then from there, like, that information becomes yours, and you start to tweak and play around with it. Now you go from that 25 to 40 to that 50 to 70% close ratio. And then it just gets fun. And it's dangerous at the same time, because you realize you can turn it on and off.
Yeah.
For the wrong person, that's a death sentence. That's how people end up out of the business. But
I love it.
That's when it gets fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I really, really appreciate you sharing. Like I said, it's an absolute honor to have you in the office. You know, every single time I know Wayne's coming in the office, like, I get excited. I'm like, all right, somebody's going to learn something today, whether it be me, an agent, you know. So thank you for sharing, dude. I really appreciate it. I'm excited what's going to come, you know, for all of us, you know, and just having you in here, dude. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
All right, guys, later.
Thanks.